हेलो हाय नमस्ते गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन। तो चलो आज स्टार्ट करते हैं न्यू लर्नवेल साइंस स्टैंडर्ड 6 के चैप्टर नंबर 10। ये है आपके चैप्टर नंबर 10 बॉडी मूवमेंट्स। तो इसके पहले मैं बोल देना चाहती हूँ, अगर कोई भी मेरे चैनल को अभी तक सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो पहले सब्सक्राइब कर लो। साइड पे जो बेल आइकन है उस पर प्रेस कर लो ताकि जो भी मैं वीडियो पोस्ट करूँ वो आपको पहले नोटिफिकेशन में आ जाए। और आप देखना ना भूलिएगा, लाइक एंड शेयर करना मत भूलिएगा। मैं हूँ सरोजनी दास, आप सभी को मेरे तरफ से नमस्कार और मेरे सरस्वती एकेडमी में आप सभी का स्वागत है। तो चलो स्टार्ट करते हैं बॉडी मूवमेंट्स का क्वेश्चन आंसर। फर्स्ट MCQs, मल्टीपल चॉइस ऑफ क्वेश्चंस। टिक द करेक्ट ऑप्शंस। द ओनली मूवेबल पार्ट ऑफ द skull is the lower jaw. Floating ribs at the last two pairs of ribs. Which of the following bone is present in the forelimbs humerus? The longest bone in the human body is the femur. The number of bones that form an adult skeleton are 206. Pectoral girdle is present on the upper side of backbone. Bristles are present on the underside of the body of earthworm. Movement of bones is brought about by the contraction and relaxation of muscles. The number of bones in the skull are 22. Hinge joints allows movement in one direction. Then understand and fill in the blanks. First knee, hinge joint, shoulder, shoulder आपका हो जाएगा ball and socket joint. Then neck, pivot joint, wrist, gliding joint. Snake, loops, muscular foot हो जाएगा snail. Rib cage 24 bones but backbone 33 vertebrae. Skull protects the brain. Backbone protects the spinal cord. Plants show movement like the animals but do not show locomotion. The skull is made of 22 bones. The skull is made of 22 bones. The small bones of the backbone are called vertebrae. Legs are joined to the spine by the pelvic or hip girdle. Arms are joined to the spine by the shoulder girdle. Dash is the basic structural and functional unit of life, cell. The circulatory system transports nutrients to all parts of the body. Muscular foot of the snail produces a slimy substance called mucus. Called क्या है? Mucus. Then fishes have a dash backbone, flexible. The dash protects the head, rib cage. Write one word for each of the following. The soft elastic tissue present between the bones or joints, cartilage. The framework of bones that forms a body skeleton. Strong fibers that join bones to muscles, tendon. The shape of the body of a fish and bat, streamlined. The skeleton present inside the body of animals, endoskeleton. Identify the animal with the help of clues given below. It moves with the help of its muscular foot, snail. It moves by alternate extension and contraction of the body muscles, earthworm. It swims in water by twisting the body alternatively on both sides, fish. It flies with the help of four limbs that are modified to wings, birds. It walks with the help of three pairs of jointed legs, crows. Given below is a picture of the human skeleton. Label the parts indicated. ऑलरेडी यहाँ पर नेमिंग है तो आप लोग देख लीजिए अच्छे से। Very short answer type question. What is the basic structural and functional unit of life? Cell. Where are blood cells made in bones? Bone marrow. How many vertebrae are there in backbone? 33. Name of the soft tissue present between the bones at joints, cartilage. Then short answer type questions. ये है आपके short answer type question का आंसर। Then define floating ribs. The last two pairs of ribs that are not attached to the sternum are called floating ribs. Then name the four kinds of freely movable joints: pivot joint, ball and socket joint, hinge joint, gliding joint. Then define bone marrow. Bone marrow is present inside the long bones of the skeleton. Blood cells are made in the bone marrow. Why is mucus secreted by snail's foot? The mucus secreted by snail's foot helps it to move easily by reducing the friction between the foot and the surface. What is the function of a bone marrow? The function of a bone is to make blood cells. Then long answer type, state the function of the skeleton. The function of the human skeleton are as follows. Support. The head framework of bones supports the soft muscles and organs. It helps you to stand upright. Protections. The bones protect the soft. ये हो जाएगा आपका soft, ठीक है? Soft organs on your body. For example, the brain is protected by the skull, the head and the lungs by the ribs. Movement. Bones can move at places called joints. Joints enable you to bend your arms, legs, fingers, etc. Making blood cells. The long bones of the skeleton contain bone marrow. Blood cells are made in the bone marrow. Then B number question, explain how muscles bring about movement in your arm. The muscles that help in the movement of arms, biceps and triceps. When we raise our hand, the biceps become shorter and harder, while the triceps become softer and longer. Similarly, when we lower our hand, the triceps become shorter and harder, while the triceps become longer and softer. In this way, the muscles help in the movement of arms. Which property of muscles is responsible for the movement in your arm? Contraction and the relaxation property of the muscles is responsible for the movement of bones. A combination of two muscles is required for the movement of a bone. When a muscle contracts, it pulls the bone away from the joint. When a muscle relaxes, it allows the bone to move away from itself and towards the joint. Those two muscles work in pairs to move a bone. Which special in birds' body enables it to fly? The special features of a bird's body that enable it to fly are their forelimbs are modified into wings. They have hollow bones and streamlined body shape. The flapping of wings provides movement and leap to the bird. E. Explain how movement is brought about in earthworm and snail. First is earthworm. Movement in earthworm is caused by the elongation and shortening of body muscles. When an earthworm moves, it first extends the front part of the body, keeping the rear part of the body fixed to the ground. Now it fixes the front part of the body and releases the rear part and then shortens the body by pulling the rear part forward. A number of minute hair-like bristles are present on the underside of the body that help it to keep its grip on the ground. Then snail. Movement in snail is brought about by its movement in snail is brought about by its muscular foot. The muscular foot produces web-like movements that push the body of snail forward. The muscular foot also produces a slimy substance called mucus that reduces the friction between the foot and the surface it moves on. Then distinguish between first freely movable joints and immovable joints. So freely movable joints, these joints allow free movement between the bones. These are of four kinds. For example, E dot G का मतलब है for example, okay? E dot G का मतलब है for example. The joint between the neck and head, ये है piper joint का example. The joints at the hip and the shoulder, ball and socket zone example. Then the joints at the knee and elbow, hinge joint. The joints between the bones of ankle and wrist, gliding joint. Then immovable joints, they do not allow any movement between the bones. They are also called fixed joints. For example, joints of the skull, joints of the tooth, socket. Then distinguish between hinge and ball and socket joints. Hinge, these joints allows movement only in one direction. For example, the joints at the knee and elbow. But while the ball and socket joints allows maximum movement in all directions, the ball-like end of one bone fits into a cup-like cavity of the other bone. For example, the joints at the hip and the shoulder. Then distinguish between endoskeleton and exoskeleton. Endoskeleton that is present inside the body of an animal is called endoskeleton, but while the exoskeleton that is found outside the body of an organism is called exoskeleton. For example of the endoskeleton of humans and fish, but exoskeleton example of exoskeleton is skeleton of a cockroach. तो यहीं पर आपकी ख़त्म होती है द चैप्टर 10 बॉडी मूवमेंट का ऑल क्वेश्चन आंसर। अगर कुछ भी डाउट रहे तो मुझे कमेंट सेक्शन में बता सकते हो, या फिर कुछ अलग सा आपको वीडियो चाहिए होता है, कोई भी टॉपिक हो वो मुझे कमेंट करके बता सकते हो। लाइक एंड शेयर करना मत भूलिएगा। मैं रखती हूँ आपकी सरोजिन दास, मुझे विदाई दीजिए। गुड नाइट।